الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والهب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مرج البحر يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. كل من عليها فان فيبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بالسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. ذواتا أفنان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما عينان تجريان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة والنخل والرمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خيرات حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان حور مقصورات في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهن فلا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام آمنا. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: وعليك السلام. قال: إني يجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة، ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيت بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل على. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن نكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن نكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن نكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي يتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله عليك السلام: يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال لي بأن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة. ورب الكعبة إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dr. Sayyid Shabbir Kirmani, respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of Masjid Hayy, we would like to extend a Khushali Mubarak to you all on the Wiladat of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our du'as and continue to shower His blessings on us on this auspicious night and moving forward. Ameen. Surah Al-Fatih is requested for the Isal Sawab of Marhumeen listed on the screen, and for all Marhumeen, Al-Fatiha. Ayama Yujib is requested for the names listed on the screen, and for all those in need here and elsewhere. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mutarra idha da'a huwa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mutarra idha da'a huwa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mutarra idha da'a هو يكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا هو يكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا هو يكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Women's Circle. Come and join the Women's Circle for a round table discussion on Palestine and the Middle East with Dr. Sayyid Shabbir Kirmani. The session is scheduled for this Sunday, January 28, from 1 to 2 p.m. For more information, please contact Sister Sakina Nur Muhammad at 407-690-3360. Seniors Cruise. Masjid Hayy Seniors invite you to travel with them for the Caribbean and Mexico. Seniors from Orlando, Toronto, and New York will meet here in Orlando to enjoy a 7-night cruise aboard the beautiful MSC Seashore from April 21st to 28th. Booked by January 31st to reserve at the group rate. For more information, contact Sister Batul Mukhi at 785-220-0015. Administrative Assistant job. Masjid Hayy is pleased to announce an exciting opportunity to join us as a paid part-time administrative assistant. As an integral part of the team, that the admin will play a key role in ensuring the smooth and efficient functioning of our day-to-day operations. Responsibilities will include providing secretarial and administrative support, managing communication channels, and assisting with various organization tasks. If you believe you have the skills and enthusiasm to excel in this role, we encourage you to apply. Please submit your resume at info@masjidhay.org by January 31st. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Kirmani to give tonight's lecture with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل وقل رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد أفلح المؤمنون صدق الله العلي العظيم زينوا مجالسكم بالصلوات على محمد وآل محمد. My respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman here in Florida, across the globe, wherever you may be hearing my voice, Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question, who is Ali ibn Abi Talib? We're told there's a moment in time where there is a mother who is circumambulating around the house of God, the Kaaba, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in that moment she's in the pangs of labor, she's expecting a child. And at that moment in time when she's expecting a child, normally an instinct would be to retreat from the house of God or Allah's house at that moment. But this was not an ordinary mother and this was not an ordinary birth. That as this mother was expecting and about to deliver, she actually drew herself closer to the house of God, to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that door itself, that home itself, that house itself had a crack in the wall which seemed to invite this mother in. And for 3 days she stayed therein. And when she stayed therein for 3 days, no one who had gone in had come out, and no one was able to come out from there. No one was entering, no one was exiting. The people who were there. And at that point in time, the chieftains were trying to make sure that they opened the doors or see if they could get access. And at that point in time, you noticed that this was something that had a bigger mission. This is something that had a bigger purpose and a bigger message. At that point in time, after 3 days, this child emerges in the hands of the Blessed Mother, but still this child has not opened its eyes. And at that point in time, when the child has not opened its eyes, he comes into the hands of the blessed messenger, the beloved messenger, who at this time is 30 years of age. And in this moment, he takes this young child, his cousin, into his arms, into his hands, and this child opens his eyes for the first time. And the narration says that he begins to speak to the Prophet the same way that others spoke in infancy from the cradle, such as Isa ibn Maryam. And he begins to say to the messenger who has not opened his eyes, Ali, this child, he opens his eyes and he looks and he says to the Prophet, what shall I recite for you? Shall I recite from you from the Torah, the Old Testament? Shall I recite for you from the Bible, the New Testament? Or shall I recite for you from the Quran? Now the Quran has not been revealed in its form, final form. It's in the Baytul Ma'mur. So someone had that connection. And at that point in time, the narration says the verse that was recited by this child, Amir Al-Momineen, in that young cradle, was the verse that I recited at the beginning, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Verily the mu'minun, or the believers, are successful. And perhaps no more moment in history would be so befitting to have a moment where the one who is reciting this verse is not an ordinary believer, but he is the one who is not just an ordinary mu'min, but he is Amir Al-Momineen. Asadullah Al-Ghalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. You and I are gathered here to commemorate the birth of one of the most exemplary personalities in the history of humanity. One who the world should know about far and wide. And they should know about his justice, his spirituality, his leadership, his courage, his valor, his adherence to that which is right in every noble cause. That if the world looks for somebody who's a role model, you may find someone who's a role model in the space of business. But if you look into their personal life, they may leave things to be desired. You may find someone who is a genius when it comes to science and technology. But if you delve into other aspects of their life, perhaps business or other aspects, even personal, they may leave much to be desired. But this individual, barring and with the exception of his only teacher, who was Muhammad, Rasulullah, there is nobody who you can say that other than Muhammad and Ali, every aspect of their lives showed such excellence, from the smallest micro element to the major macro elements, that this individual brings together antithetical qualities. When the French historian reads the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, I am baffled and I am perplexed that a person like this has lived in the canons of history. A person like this has lived in the corridors of our world. A person who not only who brings together those traits which seemed opposing, he brings together them into one individual and one trait. That he was, you would not expect that the greatest scientist of the time and the greatest intellectual of the time was also the greatest warrior. And tonight what I want to look at is Ali brought these traits together. That's why he's known as Mazharul Ajaib. And it's someone who brings together these antithetical, strange qualities that you would not find in one human being. And so what is the message for you and I? Ali, the Lion of God. Ali, the just individual for beacon for humanity. I want to look at in the few moments with you the seasons of the life of Amir Al-Momineen. That if you look at this one person, at glimpses and at moments of his life, he motivates you, he inspires you and I to become the best version of ourselves. On the battlefield, in terms of fighting the enemy and the opposition, in terms of his courage in his youth. But the same person, when the era and the time demanded something else, he shifted his needs and he shifted what he gave. Sometimes his courage was shown on the battlefield, and sometimes his courage was shown in restraint, in his discipline, in his self-control, where he has the ability to obliterate the enemy on the other side. But he controlled himself. Or sometimes his courage was shown in how he restrained himself for the bigger picture, to understand what is going on and make sure that everyone has a good quality of life, a fair shot at life. A few things that I want to look at. In terms of Ali, Ali as a leader, Ali as a lawyer, Ali as a judge, Ali as a general, Ali as a soldier. Where do you begin? Where do you end? Ali as an economist, Ali as a politician, Ali as a governor, Ali as a statesman. The dimensionality of Ali seems to be infinite in terms of its depth and layers. And yet, he hearkens to not only you and I, but to humanity. That what are you and I doing? The same individual who was able to conquer the biggest stage of battle in one phase of his life, in another phase of his life you find him spending the nights awake with food on his back, trying to feed the poor and the orphans and the widows. Who is this individual who had that bravery of a lion, the courage and the lion-hearted Ali, but at the same time he had the softness, the demeanor, the compassion of a true father, the compassion of a true nurturer, a compassion perhaps that Allah willed, that He showed, that in Ali, Allah shows us through him and through Muhammad how he is compassionate for the world. Otherwise we don't understand. We would say that these are fairy tales that the Quran talks about. These are things that are not open to the average individual. Therefore, when we come tonight, I want us to look at a few things. Number one, how does Ali inspire you and I to live a life that is ambitious, live a life that is full, live a life that is rich, beyond measure? Number one. Number two, how does he bring the Muslim world together, not apart? That when we talk and we do the dhikr of Ali, this was the essence of what Rasulullah willed, what Islam willed, and the Quran willed. Which brings me to the third point, which is, where is Ali in the Quran, in the prophetic traditions, in the history of Islam? And how is it that we learn from the different seasons of the life of Ali, the different dimensions of the life of Ali, so how that we are supposed to be the Shia of Ali? How is it that we actually become this Shia of Ali, the likes of those great companions who were? This is our agenda for the brief moments that we are together. Wherever you are, here in Florida or across the globe, from the bottom of your heart, send a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli. At the first level, where do you begin with Ali ibn Abi Talib? The merits are numerous. The Quran is filled with the praise of Ali ibn Abi Talib, documented either directly or indirectly. When you come to the ideas and the notions of the prophetic tradition, you will find Ali ibn Abi Talib. And there are verses of the Quran that explicitly explain and discuss Ali ibn Abi Talib, and there are the ones that implicitly discuss and explain Ali ibn Abi Talib. But Ali is not needing of hyperbole. I don't need to try to elevate Ali by saying things that he's not. He's already elevated. I don't need to exaggerate Ali ibn Abi Talib. I can just tell you the reality as it is, and that would be the truth. The unfortunate reality in the history of Islam, and I'm speaking as a student of the history of Islam, is the biggest tragedy that happened with Ali ibn Abi Talib was that they brought people that were not a comparison to Ali to the level of Ali. And hence they thought that these are comparisons. And that is perhaps the greatest tragedy of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir Al-Momineen. That his level was so exalted, and yet people forgot. Because I guarantee you one thing, that Ali ibn Abi Talib is that individual who at no moment in time has he ever caused a Shia of Ali to bow their head and say that this was a moment that I find that is less than what is to be desired. That you never find that in the life of Ali, he causes you to bow your head in any way. No, rather he causes you to say and elevate your head to say that I am someone who's a follower of Ali, or at least trying to be. And that's what it means. When I go to university, I should inspire myself and aspire to be the best in terms of academia through following Bab-e Madinatul Ilm. If I'm wanting to be someone who is courageous and I want to excel in the area of business, for example, I look at that era and time where Amir Al-Momineen, after his right was taken, after Rasulullah, where he became a developer of land, a property developer as we would call it today, a person who used to go into the outskirts of Medina with seeds on his back in a sack, and he would distribute on the ground and eventually make orchards and look after the family and other people, and he caused them to have livelihood. The same Ali who at a moment in time when he tells Malik al-Ashtar in his beautiful letter on how to govern, he tells him, Malik, make sure you don't rush first to get the taxes from people. When you go to get the taxes, don't delay. But before you do that, make sure that you develop the land. Because if you do not develop the land, the people will not have the income that they need in order to derive revenue to give you the taxes that they are owing you. So how was it that this person came to the forefront? A same Ali, in his letter to Malik, he's saying, oh Malik, make sure that you compensate the judges well. Ya Allah. Amir Al-Momineen, who on another moment says, bear witness that this shoe, Ya Allah, bear witness that this shoe of Ali, I have not given up on this shoe. I have patched it so much and so much to the point that this shoe is not being able to be patched up anymore. The shoe gave up on me, not I gave up on the shoe. Why is he saying to compensate judges well? Because he knew that if that's not taken care of, he understood what we in economics today call incentivization structures. And he knew that if they are susceptible to bribery, then the entire system goes down with them. And you're seeing that in our world today, unfortunately. Amir Al-Momineen was a far trailblazer that we need to get out of our narrow vision of who Ali is just for the Shia or just for the Muslims. that you will find that his universality is such. How did he spend his days and how did he spend his nights? You see, when it comes to this, allow me to understand this and try to look at this with you. This Ali, who would look after the widows and their children, and people didn't even know he was the Khalifa of Muslimin while he was doing this. There's a moment in time, Ayatollah Wahid al-Khurasani says, he's one of our great scholars who's alive, and he's the head of the Hawza of Qum. And he says that Ali was ruling over a state that is over 50 nations today. And when he's ruling over it, he would come to the table spread of his daughter, and the daughter would put salt in front of him, some milk, and other narration says some bread. And he looks and he says, when have you seen Ali eat more than 2 items at the same time? And perhaps she's thinking that salt doesn't count. How does that make sense? He says, no, take one away. But he says, they asked Ali, why this frugality? Why this humbleness? Why are you pushing yourself to this limit? And he says a line that shows leadership and compassion. You know, there's a book that's out by Simon Sinek. It's called Leaders Eat Last, one of his books. You know, this idea that leadership is about making sure everyone is taken care of. There's a difference between leadership and management. So Ayatollah Wahid says, Ali says that I have a wish. And that wish is I meet my Lord in a state where my stomach is empty. What are our wishes and what are the desires of Ali ibn Abi Talib? I tell myself first and foremost. I said, why Ali? He said, that's one. He said, what's the other? He says, the other is I wish and I want to make sure that there is not a single table spread in all of my dominion that I'm responsible for, from Yamama to Ahwaz down to Yemen. I don't want a single dominion, in my entire dominion, a single table that could say that their food was simpler than the food of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's what it means to be governed in the Islamic way. Coming back to this, when it comes to the life of Amir Al-Momineen, Ali in the Quran, and I want this to be a point of reflection. Spirituality, the essence of Islamic spirituality goes back to Rasulullah and Ali ibn Abi Talib. If you don't believe me, take the general Sufi world, don't even take the Shia world. I've already told you in the Jummah khutbah, I mentioned to you Rumi. The world is enamored by Rumi. Rumi is the spiritual father, as Iqbal says himself, my spiritual father is Rumi. Rumi says, as Ali amuz ikhlas amal. Learn from Ali the sincerity of action. And he says this in the heat of battle, when Ali could have annihilated his enemy. And Ali steps back. And he steps forward. And they said, Ali, they looked at from the distance. They said, Ya Ali, why? Why did you step back when you had the upper hand and then you stepped forward? He said, he spat on my face. And I did not wish for one moment that my will and the will of God get separated. I'm doing this purely for the sake of Allah. Where does that sincerity? Rumi says, learn from Ali the sincerity of action. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? That level of sincerity, no one could blame Ali if he did not retreat. But I guess the bigger question is, how did he retreat and go back? That only Ali knows. And this is where Amir Al-Momineen, he baffles the mind. First point. Second point, when it comes to Imam Ali alayhi salam, as you and I, this is a point that I want us to drive home. As Muslims, sometimes we limit our ambitions. We say, this world is nothing. This world has no value. This world is nothing. But who knows Islam more than Ali ibn Abi Talib? Who knows Islam more than Rasulullah? And their ambitions were astronomical. Their ambitions were to change the world. Literally, quite literally. Not my words, Michael H. Hart in his book 100. He said the person who changed this world was Muhammad more than anybody. Spiritually and secularly. So they were not playing a small game, as we would call it. Their purpose was not to maybe make a couple of digits in the bank, have some properties, although that's noble. And there were seasons of Ali's life where he did that. But he used that for development. So you may say, what impact do I have on the world? I would invite you to think, how did Ali ibn Abi Talib see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What eyes was he seeing him with? So you see problems maybe in politics, in society, in our world. Think about that and think about Ali and dive into those what seem to be intractable problems. And you'll find that Allah will open the way for you. Allah will open the doors for you. Don't think so stingily about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our minds, we may think a few million, maybe even a billion here and there is quite a bit. But that's from our worldly lens, from the lens of Ali, from the lens of Muhammad, from the lens of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no capacity, there's no limit. The limit is in us. The limit is in us in terms of what we think. मुझको दुनिया में कोई शख्स भी ऐसा न मिला, मुझको दुनिया में कोई शख्स भी ऐसा न मिला जो ये कह सकता हो शब्बीर से मांगा न मिला, जो ये कह सकता हो शब्बीर से मांगा न मिला, और एक बार उनकी सखावत के मुताबिक मांगे, एक बार उनकी सखावत के मुताबिक मांगे, ऐसा मौला को कोई मांगने वाला न मिला. He said, the poet is saying at this moment in time that I didn't find anyone who asks. Now again, this concept of tawassul, it's strange that I have to explain it. Before Ibn Taymiyyah was a common point between all Muslims. But let's leave that for a moment. Tawassul, even Imam al-Shafi'i says, forget Imam Ali is too high. He says Imam al-Kadhim, the seventh Imam, Imam Shafi'i, he's not a Shia. Shafi'i madhab, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali. Shafi'i is saying, I found that the tomb of Al-Kadhim is an elixir to your problems. Ali is too high. Ali is too elevated. That some of our great scholars, the likes of Shaheed al-Sadr, he said, Shaheed al-Sadr was an extraordinary intelligence. And he would solve problems of philosophy and mathematics and many other things. And they asked him, how did you? He wrote Iqtisaduna, Falsafatuna, our economics, our philosophy. I invite you to read these books, especially our economics, where he analyzes Marxism, capitalism, and he says Islam intrinsically has elements of them. Anyways, they asked him, how did you get here? How did you get to this point? He said, my toughest problems, my hardest problems, my most intractable problems, when I don't have a solution, I do 2 rak'ah, 2 units of prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the right of the one who is buried in this tomb, pointing to the tomb of Amir al-Momineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam. That the way you opened his heart and his mind, illuminate my heart and my mind. And through that I find the doors of my mind being opened to the solutions and to the problems, to understand what there is. This is Ali. The elements are too profound. To the Quran, you and I may say, where is Ali? Have we taken hyperbole to be Ali? Allow me to come to this moment in time. We're told when it comes to this moment, the Muslim world accepts, not my views. Our brothers in Ahl Sunnah say at least 300 verses of over 6,000 verses of the Quran directly in honor of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Many of the Ahl Sunnah, our brothers in Ahl Sunnah say up to 500 verses. For our scholars, you'll find many of them say almost 1,000 of them or have Ali ibn Abi Talib in some way. I'll give you a gist of some. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is one of the renowned companions of Rasulullah, who's not someone who is considered by just the Shias, he's considered by the Muslim world as someone who's exemplary. And he says in a tradition that's accepted by all Muslims, that he says that I would give the life of Nuh, if you gave me on one side the life of Noah, the life of Nuh, or these fadail and merits of Ali, I would choose the fadail that Ali had over the life of Nuh. Who wouldn't want to live for over 950 years, which the Quran enshrines, although he lived longer, Nuh did. Now, he had a tough life, that's a different story, but he lived a long time. He says, Ali was given these merits and no one else got him. He said, what is it? He said, the first one, when Rasulullah said, لَأُتِيَنَّ الرَّايَةَ غَدًا رَجُلًا كَرَّارٌ غَيْرَ فَرَّارٍ يُحِبُّ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. He says that night on Khaybar, when everyone was waiting, 39 days had passed, the 40th had dawned. Rasulullah, the Prophet, had said that tomorrow I will give the flag to the one who is a rajul, who is a man, who is advancing, not retreating, who Allah and His Messenger loves. And he loves Allah and His Messenger. He said this was a sanad, this was a signed, sealed, stamped, delivered, absolute first class ticket to Jannah of the highest stations. That Allah's messenger is saying this. He said we all wanted it, and we all stayed up at night to try to think we were the ones, because Ali wasn't even there. Ali wasn't even there at that night because he was suffering from an eye ailment and he had been back home. That's when Rasulullah called, and when the day broke. Nadi Ali madhar al-ajaib. And at that point in time when Amir Al-Momineen came, Rasulullah from his blessed saliva, he cleansed the eye of Amir Al-Momineen. And he said, Amir Al-Momineen, Imam Ali says, after that I never saw as clearly as I saw thereafter. Now, at that moment in time, when Rasulullah invited and called Ali, Ali brought victory for the Muslims at Khaybar. Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, this was a stamp of Ali's maqam. I wish I had this over the life of Nuh. He said, what else? He said, when the call was made that close all the doors that open in the doors of the companions used to open into the masjid. And they used to open into the masjid, and Allah sent a message to Rasulullah to have all the doors closed except the door of Ali. Because people didn't know about tahara and najasa and all these things, they would walk into the masjid in whatever state. So that same line that we say in Dua Nutbah was Sadd al-abwaba illa baba, and close all the doors except the door of Ali. This was a sanad of the maqam of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, what else? He said that in Mubahila, when the verse came, Anfusana, you ask where's Ali in the Quran? When it came, you bring yourselves, we'll bring ourselves. The nafs of Rasulullah was Ali ibn Abi Talib. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud says, we wish to be called the nafs of Rasulullah. To be called the self of Rasulullah is tantamount to saying someone what higher level can you get than this? And he says the final one. Again, where in the Quran? I'm answering that question. Where is Ali in the Quran? He says Surah Bara'at, Surah Tawbah, the surah that doesn't begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Abdullah bin Mas'ud says that when it was revealed, Allah's messenger had dispatched Abu Bakr to go there and distribute and give the verses of Surah Tawbah to the Meccans. And when he had dispatched him, Jibreel descended. And when Jibreel descended, he said, Ya Rasulullah, Allah has commanded that either you directly yourself convey these verses of Surah Bara'at, or someone who is from you. At that point in time, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud says, Rasulullah told Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said, Ali, go and intercept Abu Bakr and tell him that you have to convey the verses of Surah Bara'at to the Meccans. A sanad of the maqam, that this means that Ali is the self of Rasulullah, tantamount to the self of and credit due where credit is due to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr didn't argue with him, and he even said he gave it to Amir Al-Momineen and he allowed him to continue. But these are 4 moments that highlight this. In fact, you will find that there was a difference between Abu Bakr and the other khulafa afterwards. Example, afterwards when Abu Bakr becomes the first khalifa of the Muslim world, Badahir, at that point in time, there's a moment when a man comes with a claim. And he says, I have a claim. He said, what's the claim? He said, your prophet promised me, he was not from the Muslim community perhaps, he says, he promised me 3 handful of dates. I said, very well, no problem. So Abu Bakr takes 1 handful, 2 handful, 3 handful. I don't know if he saw his hand, it was big or small, I don't know. But he said that no, this doesn't count. He said, what do you mean? He said, Rasulullah, your prophet promised me. So the hand that gives me has to be the same hand as Muhammad. But Muhammad's not here. What do we do? Muhammad's gone. Now Abu Bakr, to his credit, some people don't have the answer, but they know where the answer is. He said, call on Ali ibn Abi Talib. And at that point in time, he called on Ali ibn Abi Talib. When he called on Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, Ali, you need to solve this problem for us. Imam Ali takes 1, 2, 3, and he gives him. The man counts them, and he takes it, and he says, I'm pleased. Go on your way. After that, when Ali was there, and the person left, they asked Abu Bakr, why is it that in this first instance, you gave the 3 handfuls of dates? And then after that, when you couldn't, and the person said, the same hand needs to give, you are called on Ali, why? He said, the reason is very clear. it was me and Muhammad, Rasulullah, the night of Hijrah from Mecca to Medina. I was in the cave with Muhammad. And that whole night, when Muhammad and I were in the cave, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah, he told me the whole night the fadail of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And amongst the fadail of Amir Al-Momineen, the merits of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, Ali and I, even in our hand, are equivalent. Not only the hand of justice, the literal hand. And he said, I remembered that and I called on it. Because Rasulullah would not say praise for no reason. There was something in the future that he was looking at, or something in the present, or even something indeed in the past that he was indicating. So for you and I, when we think about this personality as followers of Ali, how should we be, and what should our vision be? Furthermore, إنما وليكم الله. Quran, I'm telling you straight Quran, I'm not telling you anything else. إنما وليكم الله ورسول والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. That Allah is your wali. إنما وليكم الله ورسول, and the messenger, and the one who gives zakat while in a state of ruku. Who was that person in history who gave? You check the pages of history and you say, look what Mufassirin say. It was such a particularity that you'd be hard pressed to find otherwise. In fact, that ring that Ali ibn Abi Talib gave in a state of ruku was actually the ring that Sulaiman used to use to rule his whole kingdom. You know, I said be ambitious. Sulaiman says to Allah, Rabbi habli mulkan. This is Quran again. He said, Ya Allah, give me a kingdom which no one has had before. I thought being worldly, astaghfirullah. No. We've misunderstood Islam perhaps. See Islam in light of Rasulullah, in light of Sulaiman, in light of Muhammad Arabi. And then you'll understand that Islam was not wanting you and I to live a half-effort life. It wanted us to live a life that's full. And so when you and I come, we read the Quran, you will find that the Zahir and the Batin have the elements of Ali. Now the element is, we're not speaking about Ali for the sake of Ali. We are speaking about Ali because Ali invites us to our better attributes. Remember, and there are attributes of Allah that we can't understand without Amir Al-Momineen. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hashr says, هُوَ الْخَالِقُ الْبَارِعُ الْمُسَوِّرُ لَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Some of the most powerful verses of the Quran, Surah Hashr, especially the last 8 verses or so. He says, Hu Allah, He is Allah. Who? Hu Allah, Hu al-Khaliq al-Bari' al-Musawwir. The creator, the fashioner, the Musawwir. One translation of Musawwir is the artist. How would you and I understand Allah as an artist? The fish in the sea, the skies, absolutely. But there's another dimensionality. You know, the contribution of Imam Ali to the arts. Ali gave the Kufic script of calligraphy to the world. The one that you see in the museums in Qatar and other parts of the world. That's Ali's giving. You see, the dimensionality is infinite. So when you and I look at Ali, there's no limitation in terms of how much depth Allah gave him. So what's the take-home message? When you want to live in this world, live with the courage of Ali, but also see the big picture in that moment, to also have restraint like Ali. When you go into business and commerce, do it like Ali. The moment when Ali digs water in the middle of the desert, when he goes to the outskirts of Medina, and he digs to the point that the water gushes out. And they said, Ali has struck it rich. And Ali at that moment, he says, bring me a paper and bring me a pen. And they bring him a paper and a pen. And Ali writes, I am endowing them, waqfing this water in the middle of the desert, in order to use the funds, use the proceeds of this, in order to feed the hungry, in order to clothe those who do not have clothes, to look after the wayfarer, to look after the orphans, to arrange for the marriage of those who are not able to get married. And the rest of it you use for those who are in need. This was the concept of development, and this was the concept of leadership. I remind you again, why did Ali move his capital? The world needs to do research on this. Why did he move the Muslim capital from Medina to Kufa? And the reality of the matter is, if you study it, you will find that perhaps he was well ahead. And he understood that when the expansion happened of the Muslim empire, if there is a distance between the general population and the capital city, corruption can ensue. And Imam Ali perhaps wanted it to be more central, which now scientific data has substantiated. I'm just telling you and I, think about Ali. And whatever you are doubting about making come to fruition, take the motivation of Ali, take the motivation of life, and fall into the battlefield of life with the courage of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then you will flourish far and wide. Ali is in the Quran, Ali is in the traditions, Ali is within us. And perhaps that's the most important Ali, the spiritual Ali that invites you to your greater self. That's why even the Sufi orders, all of them go back to Ali, with the exception of the Naqshbandi order, and even that there are 3 branches, 2 of which go back to Ali. There's oceans about Ali. What can one say? But remember, if you want a fast ticket to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ali is the door, the city is Muhammad, and it gets you there as fast as possible. I'm concluding at this moment in time. कुरान में अगर जिक्र अली का नहीं देखा, कुरान में अगर जिक्र अली का नहीं देखा, मक्का तो गए खाना काबा नहीं देखा, मक्का तो गए खाना काबा नहीं देखा। और एक जिक्र अली का है और एक तेग अली की, एक जिक्र अली का है और एक तेग अली की, इन दोनों से छुप जाए जो शजरा नहीं देखा। और वो मुझको नजफ जाता हुआ देख रही थी, वो मुझको नजफ जाता हुआ देख रही थी, जन्नत की तरफ मैंने जरा सा नहीं देखा, जन्नत की तरफ मैंने जरा सा नहीं देखा। और मौला ने मेरी दी हैं तुझे 3 तलाकें, मौला ने मेरे दी हैं तुझे 3 तलाकें, यूं तेरी समत ए दुनिया में नहीं देखा, यूं तेरी समत मैं दुनिया में नहीं देखा। दुरूद भेजे मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद, अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद। या अली अली अली। जब भी दुनिया की तरफ आले पैगंबर निकले, अपने तत्हीर के हलके से ना बाहर निकले, नूरे वाहिद की ये तासीर थी ज़ेरे चादर, रात को सोए नबी सुबह को हैदर निकले, रात को सोए नबी सुबह को हैदर निकले। The poet is talking about the noor of Ali and the noor of Muhammad being one and the same, which we have in narrations. And when Ali was sleeping in the bed of Rasulullah, the night and when the day broke, it was Ali who was at the forefront. अहले ईमा को वली इब्ने वली याद आया, बुद्ध शिकन रूह अज़ा हक का जली याद आया। जब कभी माह रजब सहने हरम से गुजरा, मुस्कुराते हुए काबे को अली याद आया। जब कभी माह रजब सहने हरम से गुजरा, मुस्कुराते हुए काबे को अली याद आया। One moment that I will reflect on this. Ali has brought together the extremes. You will find that when it came to the people who were very religious, they gravitated toward Ali, and even those who are not connected. In the Muslim world, in the history of adab, you will find that people wrote in honor of Ali, whether they were religious or not. And you will find in the Urdu world, Ghalib is considered a great poet, an intellectual genius or creative genius at least. And even when he was asked, what's your faith and what is your deen? He says, Ghalib nadeem dost se aati hai bue dost. If you don't know Ghalib, Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, the richest company in the world, $3 trillion in assets, he's reading Ghalib every single day. So if you want to spark up your business skills, you probably want to check out Ghalib. And so he says, look, he says, with respect to this, Ghalib nadeem dost se aati hai bue dost, mashghul haq hu bandagi abu turab mein. He says the smell, Nadeem is his friend. He said, from the friend you smell the fragrance of a friend. He says, I am busy in pursuing truth in the path of Ali. Pursuing truth in the path of Ali. What is he saying here? You see, when it comes to this notion, Ali is a universal truth. Whenever someone studied the history of Islam truthfully, they understood that it is Muhammad, Ali, and Hussein. There's a direct line there that no one can violate. And that's why the final line, and I'm concluding here with respect to Amir Al-Momineen and how this all comes together with respect to his son. Ruhe azan hai baap to beta namaz di, مسجد علی کی ہے تو مصلی حسین کا، مسجد علی کی ہے تو مصلی حسین کا، جاگیر کبریا ہوئی تقسیم اس طرح، جاگیر کبریا ہوئی تقسیم اس طرح، کعبہ علی کا عرش معلی حسین کا، جاگیر کبریا ہوئی تقسیم اس طرح، کعبہ علی کا عرش معلی حسین کا. The poet is saying the house of Allah, the estate of Allah was divided, of God was divided. The house went to the Father, so to speak, metaphorically, and the arsh, either the arsh of Allah is mu'alla or the arsh of Karbala is mu'alla. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this ibadah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to learn from the different dimensions of Ali ibn Abi Talib so that we can become our best selves. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be ambitious in light of Islam and in light of Amir Al-Momineen, to do those things that the Lion of God would have wanted us to do those things for justice, for truth, for equity. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman and to allow us to be amongst his companions when he returns. A final request to please recite the Surah Al-Fatiha for your marhameen, for our marhameen, and for all those who do not have someone to recite Al-Fatiha for them in this night. Surah Al-Mubarak Al-Fatiha ma'as salawat. Allahumma salli ala.
پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. بارے دیگر صلوات. چند مصرے سبت جعفر صاحب کے کلام کے. آواز آ رہی؟ جب خدا کو پکارا علی آ گئے، جب علی آ گئے زندگی آ گئی، زندگی بندگی روشنی آ گئی، روشنی آ گئی آ گئی آ گئی. موت ان کے محبوں کو آتی نہیں، آ بھی جائے تو پھر بچ کے جاتی نہیں. موت ان کے محبوں کو آتی نہیں، آ بھی جائے تو پھر بچ کے جاتی نہیں. موت کا کیا خطر، موت سے کیا ہے ڈر، اس سے بچنا بھی کیا آ گئی آ گئی. غسل میت نہ کہنا میرے غسل کو، اجلے ملبوس کو مت کفن نام دو. غسل میت نہ کہنا میرے غسل کو، اجلے ملبوس کو مت کفن نام دو. میں چلا ہوں علی سے ملاقات کو، جس کی تھی آرزو وہ گھڑی آ گئی. علی 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 یا علی 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 یا علی یا علی علی. علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، ازل سے ابد تک ہوئی ہے زمانے میں مشکل کشائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، سمجھ میں ہے آئی محمد کی عظمت، خدا کی اکائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، وہ آدم، وہ موسیٰ، وہ شیس اور یونس، خلیل اور یوسف، وہ داؤد و عیسیٰ، زمانے کے ہر ایک پیغمبر کو آخر ملا کیسے رتبہ، محمد نے پوچھا کہا سارے نبیوں نے ہم نے ہے پائی یہ ساری بڑائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی علی کا ہی نعرہ لگاتے ہیں مامور حکم خدا پر فرشتے، لگائے ہیں گوٹی کنارے پہ سورج، بلا کے ہے دامن پہ ٹانکے ستارے، ردائے زمان و مکان پر ہوئی ہے سلائی کڑھائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، یا علی، اگر مصطفیٰ پر یقین ان کو ہوتا، نہ ڈر دل میں ہوتا، نہ رخ زرد ہوتے، نہ ناکام آتے علم لے کے واپس، اگر جان ہوتی، اگر مرد ہوتے، محمد نے خیبر میں دین خدا کی ہے عزت بچائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، غدیری ولا کے جو منکر تھے ظالم، وہ تھے بغض والے، تھے دل ان کے کالے، نگاہوں میں مولا کی عظمت تھی لیکن سقیفہ نے ڈالے زبانوں پہ تالے، منافق نے کوشش تو کی تھی بہت ہی زبان لڑکھڑائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی ہی علی کا وظیفہ طلب پہ، دلوں میں بھی مولا، نظر میں بھی مولا، ہر ایک دور میری تو مولائیوں کا، شبوں میں بھی مولا، سحر میں بھی مولا، جہاں سے گزرے فرید اور داتا قلندر بھٹائی، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، علی کہتے کہتے، نماز اور روزہ زکوٰۃ اور حج سے جہاد خدا تک عبادت ہو پوری، یہ ہے دور غیبت مگر آج بھی ہے امام زمانہ کی نصرت ضروری، برائی کے جڑ سے تمنا زر سے کریں گے لڑائی. علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے نہیں اتنی وسعت شور بشر میں سمجھ پائے دنیا یہ مشکل کشا کو. علی نے فضائل بتائے ہیں جب بھی کیا جھک کے فوراً ہی سجدہ خدا کو. یہ خدشات دل میں خدا کہہ نہ بیٹھے علی کو خدائی. علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے یا علی. کبھی محفلوں میں کبھی مجلسوں میں یہ بچپن گزارا علی سنتے سنتے. گزاری جوانی قلم نے ہمارے علی لکھتے لکھتے علی لکھتے لکھتے. کرم یہ خدا کا ہے قسمت تو دیکھو قمر موت آئی. علی کہتے کہتے علی کہتے کہتے علی یا 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 علی پر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.
I would like to take this opportunity to extend my felicitations to all the Momineen on the birth anniversary of our first Imam, Imam Ali alayhi salam. Afdalu salat Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. يا راقبنا والمدينة قاصدا بالغ سلامي لنبي محمد وكل سلام عليك يا علم الهدى يا محمد يا أبا القاسم يا أبا الزهراء جد الحسنين أحمد يا محمد أفضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد الہی واسطہ تجھ کو محمد مصطفیٰ کا الہی واسطہ تجھ کو علی مرتضیٰ کا الہی واسطہ حسنین کا اور فاطمہ کا رہے ایمان ہمارے سلامت صدا مومنوں کو نہ ہو کوئی رنج و بلا پر مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی رہے ورد زبان شیعہ دے علی رہے ورد زبان شیعہ دے علی پر مشکل تو کہ ہے علی کے نام سے ہو مستجاب سب کی دعا جو کہ ہے بیمار مومن دے انہیں جلدی شفا قید آفت میں جو ہے یا رب انہیں کر دے رہا تیری ذات ہے پاک و خفی و جلی ہو قبول ہماری مراد دلی پر مشکل تو کہ ہے دو مدد یا علی رہے ورد زبان پر مشکل تو کہ ہے دو مدد یا علی علی کے نام سے دونوں جہاں میں عزت ہے علی کا ذکر ہے خالق کی اطاعت ہے علی کے نام سے غمگین دل کو فرحت ہے کرو حق سے دعا تو بنا میں علی ہوگی حاجت روا تو بنا میں علی پر مشکل تو کہ ہے دو مدد یا علی رہے ورد زبان علی رہے ورد زبان علی پر مشکل تو کہ ہے دو مدد یا علی افضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد الہی ببیمار داشتے بلا جو بیمار ہو جلد فاوے شفا الہی برائے امام زمان ہمیں حول میں ہے شست سے تو امان قیامت میں محشور رہو بالی اٹھے قبر سے کہ ہم یالی ہے پانچ جوانو مل چہار تحتان احمد وعلی زہرا و حسان شبیر رسلے تک امام زمان شبیر رسلے تک امام زمان ایک ایک پہ صدا صلوات پڑھو صلوات صلوات و سلام یا امام زمان فرما و ظہور یا امام زمان صلوات السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ والارواح التي حلت بفنائک وناخت برحلک عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين خصوصا سيدي ومولاي بالفضل عباس وأختك زينب وبنتك سكينة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا شالة الشموت لا إله إلا الله السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر والظهور العام جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.